It's not about how you start, but how you finish. Colts know about that. Houston knows about that. We'll dive into all of that on today's crossover episode of Locked On Texans, Locked On Colts.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Texan fans, Colts fans, we are going into the new year together. Two different trajectories, finishing off the season after how it started, and that is how we are going to kick off today's episode of the crossover, Locked On Texans, Locked On Colts show. I'm John Hickman. That is my man. And it's been a while, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that's my man. That's my man, Jake Arthur, holding it down for the Locked On Colts. We're going to dive into some game predictions. Can Colts play spoiler to Houston? They still have an opportunity here in Houston to be the number one seed in the AFC. Can they get it done with Riley Leonard after Phillip Rivers took the world by storm? Key matchups going into this game and just the biggest storylines. How things have changed for the Colts. Felt like they were going to literally run away with the division with Jonathan Taylor. And then now they're completely out of it, don't have first-round draft picks in the next couple of years. It's all bad. It feels like the Carly Ursay journey has been spoiled for a lot of you guys. We'll dive into all of that on today's show. Today's episode is brought to you. This crossover episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Jake, where did it all go wrong, brother?
Oh, my God. I know this is a 30-minute show, but how much time do we have to designate to that?
We got 30 minutes.
I missed the times when people had questions about the Texans this year and the Colts were, running away with things like you mentioned. No, like you said, how things have changed. But at the same time, this is right on schedule for the Colts. By week 18 every year, they're either already mathematically eliminated or they have to have a lot of help and they're just playing for good vibes and good feelings going into the offseason. So that's kind of where we're at now. At least they're not going to go into this matchup in a boring setting. They're riding that 6-game losing streak, but there is a new quarterback to watch on Sunday. So at least there's that. Yeah, this team, where did it all go wrong? You can look at injuries that's not the whole thing, but that is a big thing. Like they had plans to have DeForest Buckner, Mooney Ward, Sauce Gardner, all these guys together, and that hasn't been possible. Obviously, your quarterback goes down with the fibula first that he was playing through, and he looked fine playing through the fibula, but the mobility, they weren't really able to lean into that, and that's a big part of Daniel Jones' game. And then ultimately the Achilles goes pop. So injuries do play a significant role, but I don't want to say it's the whole thing. I just think player execution has taken a nosedive as well. Early in the year when the Colts were really clicking, you saw good synergy between the play calling on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, and the players executing it. It looked like they were all in sync, all on the same page. And ever since, I just think that's all just fallen apart. They're having to rely on guys who would normally be on the practice squad. And I just don't know that the coaches have adapted super well to the talent pool that they're having to use at the moment. The offensive line probably hasn't held up as strong as it was early in the year. Like everyone was very well aware of what Jonathan Taylor was doing. But the guy hasn't had a 100-yard game since that explosion against the Falcons in Germany. So it's tough. Like all the things that were going well, it's no longer the case. Offensive line play is fine now, but it's not dominant. Your quarterback who was playing really well is gone. Your running back who was leading the league in rushing is struggling to put together productive days anymore. And then on the defensive side of the ball, like when you turn on the game on Sunday, you're probably going to say who to several guys out there because in a given week, it's a who's who of who's out there for the Colts D.
I think for the Houston Texans, who did a good job of containing Jonathan Taylor, he didn't rush for 100 yards, and since the explosion He's even had struggles with just the yards per pop, 3.6, 3.5, 3.5, 2.9, 3.3. So nowhere near as good as he was to kick off the year. I think for the Houston Texans, that's going to play into their favor. They've had some issues due to injury with the inside guys, interior defensive line, but they've been able to kind of make some roster moves and changes. That unit seems to be playing a little bit better. Obviously, Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter on the outside of that defensive line. They will make plays in the run game. Azeez outside at the linebacker position. So when we do look at the Colts, maybe best attribute offensively all year has been able to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor and in conjunction with Daniel Jones. It feels like without Daniel Jones, we don't have to worry about that factor. And then without Jonathan Taylor playing as good as he's been, as good as he had, as of late, that won't be a factor. Offensively, I don't see a way that, and this kind of gets into like the key matchups, but the big storyline is there's not a player on the offensive side of the ball that scares the Houston Texans defense, who is running hot right now. And to that, I want to bring it back to you. You insert Riley Leonard. Everybody's favorite quarterback uncle right now. He came in for 2 games, had a real hot game against San Fran. He called it Rivers. Just a quarterback position all around. Is it still AR's vision, or is that chapter closed?
Now, do you legitimately his eyes, his vision? Because that is why he's not going to be activated. Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
not his quarterbacking skills.
Well, I didn't know if you meant like the vision of Anthony Richardson as their quarterback, but no, legitimately, he still has issues with his vision. He said that he could like see things like downfield passing wouldn't be a problem, but he described it as like a 1-foot box around him that he struggles to see. So it sounds like peripheral vision, really. He's had issues like in practice fielding like shotgun snaps and stuff like that. So they knew it would be irresponsible to put him out there if he's not able to be himself as Anthony Richardson, let alone as a quarterback. Like if in your day-to-day life, you're struggling with things within a foot of you, like you can't do that. And then when it comes to Phillip Rivers kind of pulling the rug on him, I think he would probably still want to play, but they brought him in here for 4 games to try and save the season. And they were eliminated from the playoffs before they even took the field last Sunday because of the Texans win on Saturday.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And the only reason they didn't start Leonard last week, I think, is because they still thought they had something to play for. And so Rivers got all the first team reps throughout last week. Now, they know they're eliminated for the first full week heading into this week. So Riley Leonard got all the first team reps. And I don't think they want to risk Rivers at all for no reason other than he loves to play football. They brought in a rookie undrafted free agent, Seth Hennigan, to the practice squad. And they said as long as Hennigan feels comfortable by Friday, that he'll back up Leonard on Sunday against the Texans. Richardson, again, on IR, they're not going to activate him, they said. And then Phillip Rivers likely would just be the emergency third quarterback.
Okay. But is Anthony Richardson project done in Indy? Do you foresee that being something that they take a swing at next year?
Like, I think all sides would probably benefit from it being done. Now, a big factor in it is who's even going to be around making decisions next year. Because, again, this is the first year of Carly Ursay-Gordon at the helm. We think she's going to be a little bit more demanding and holding people accountable and not having as long a leash as Jim Irsay did. So this was year 9 of Chris Ballard. It's 5 straight years and no playoffs. Second straight year that they've been eliminated from playoffs by the time they're playing their final game of the season. He's never won the division title. So if you get rid of Shane Steichen, if you get rid of Chris Ballard, it just kind of muddies that water a little bit. Regardless, if Shane Steichen is back, I think Daniel Jones is back. They have plans for him to be back starting right away from week 1 next year. But if it's a different head coach in there, that may be a coach who is an Anthony Richardson truther from around the league. You just never know. But current regime in place, I would think Richardson's probably done.
We got key matchups on the other side. We're going to continue this conversation. I promise you guys it'll get fun. We're going to get back to the football, but it just seems like these are just two teams that ended the season completely different. And from the ownership on down, you see the difference in the makeup of the DNA of both franchises. But we'll get to the key matchups on the other side. Stick around. More Locked On Texans, more Locked On Colts. Nobody knows your money goes better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, then beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks, ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Welcome back, Colts fans and Texan fans alike. It does feel like the the Christina Pagnacci, who that was a character on Any Given Sunday. That does feel like where the Colts are right now with Carly Ursing taking over. But getting back to the field, man, again, we talked about the roster a little bit, you know, the defensive side of the ball, a lot of who's who and who is that. Offensively, it just feels like they won't be able to create too much of a punch. So when I look at the key matchups in this game, it's going to be the matchup that has won Houston the game during the last 2 months of football, and that's their defense. Specifically, you know, with Riley Leonard out there, not sure how advanced and ready he is, but when you look at the first and the third level of Houston's defense, it's going to cause a lot of issues. Being able to get after the quarterback and also the coverage and how great Kamari Lassiter, Derek Stingley, Kalen Bullock, those guys, Kavon Wallace, who was added as of late, how good they've been playing. I think that can make a long day for a young quarterback trying to figure out, and under the circumstances that he's in, it's not the greatest. And also, I think this is a game where, because of Houston's defense and getting after the quarterback and making it difficult for you guys to score, this could be a game where guys start to get rest after the, late in the second quarter going into halftime. And so, one of my biggest key matchups, player-wise, I want to see Jaden Higgins in the matchup versus your guys' corners. This is the number 2 receiver for Houston, 500 yards on the year, 5 TDs. Houston drafted him with their first pick. He needs to get going into the playoffs. And so, obviously, you look at Amar Gardner and what he does as a cornerback. People call him overrated. He doesn't have a lot of targets this year, so you can take that with a grain of salt. But whoever the cornerback 2 is for the Indianapolis Colts, or if he does line up on Amar Gardner, can he win some of those reps, get an open field, make some plays downfield, and then advance the ball for Houston's offense?
Great news for you, because Sauce is probably not even playing. So,
that's good news.
He's got a calf injury. He had that. God, was it the first Texans game? I think when he left early. So he had that calf injury. He came back for one game and then injured it again last week. Now, pretty sure there's zero reason to play him now with no playoffs on the line, and you invested 2 first-round picks in him. So do not mess with that. We've seen in the Indiana sports scene, calf injuries turn into things much worse. So I'd be pretty shocked if Sauce played.
Right.
Now, the corners you're probably going to see, Mekhi Blackman, who I think he, of course, missed practice yesterday. They had a walkthrough, but he was, I think, listed as did not participate. Mekhi Blackman, Cameron Mitchell, Jalen Jones. That's probably the guys you're going to be seeing. And we know Nico Collins has just terrorized the Colts secondary over the years. So I don't really know who they plan on putting on him. If they want to do size on size, they could do Jalen Jones. But in every level, the Texans offense has the advantage there when it comes to the receivers. Noel, I'm trying to think of who, like Kenny Moore. If they drag Noel across the field and do some crossers and in breaking stuff and make Kenny Moore have to play chase, that's going to be an advantage for the Texans as well. So,
and Texan fans want to hear that. They've been, beating their chests and banging tables to get more of Jalen Noel. And I think with this opportunity ahead of Houston, you bring up a great point. No Sauce Gardner. I wonder how many of those guys for Indy just won't play due to the circumstances not being able to make the playoffs. That should have Houston in a situation where they can get up early, pull some of their starters, or give some of these young guys more opportunities. Because in the playoffs, Houston's history has been Nico Collins and nobody else for the most part, especially when Houston has gotten to the second round of the playoffs. And so I think this could be looked at for Houston as a game where we're getting these guys up to speed a lot more because we're going to pull the rest of the players like Nico and some of the vets, Dalton Schultz, get them healthy, and just get them out there, throw them in the fire.
Yeah, and I think the Colts are going to be doing that a little bit as well. Obviously, Riley Leonard, that's a good example of it. But Shane Steichen said yesterday that they probably will look into getting some of the younger guys some reps. Obviously, DeForest Buckner got shut down again for the year, so defensive tackle-wise, you're probably going to see more of Tommy Adebawore. You're going to see, Chris Wormley, some guys that have been on the practice squad more recently. That linebacker, you might see some changes there. Maybe more like Jalen Carlisle and Austin Ajike. Again, I think it's going to be a lot of Texans people being like, who the hell am I looking at on this field right now for the Colts? Again, I already mentioned the corners. Like, that's the corners they have to play, not even the guys they want to put out there, just like get some young reps. I'm very curious, though, if the Colts go for this. They're kind of downplaying it a little bit, but right now with them just kind of playing for good feelings and trying to get something positive going into the offseason, there's a couple milestones that I would keep my eye on. Jonathan Taylor can regain the rushing title because him and James Cook the last few weeks have been going back and forth. Taylor led the league like the entire season, but Cook caught up to him when Taylor started to kind of struggle a little bit.
Right.
I think Cook is probably, if the Bills sit their guys, Cook may not play at all. So they'll probably look to try and get Taylor the rushing title. I think that makes sense. And then Alec Pierce is 129 yards away from his first 1,000-yard season. He's the only Colts receiver that is likely within range to get it. And, he's led the league in yards per reception the last couple years now. So that's a couple things you might keep an eye on. And then Tyler Warren, I would look for them to try and get him going one last time this year. Now, Houston presents some really unique challenges there because they could put pretty much whoever they want out there. Is Jalen Petrie healthy and ready to go?
Yeah, he's
okay. Yeah, so that's one. I love that matchup. If they want to put Petrie on Tyler Warren, that's so intriguing. And I think Riley Leonard is going to look his way early and often because that's kind of another factor in this. Is we could talk about what roles guys normally have, but the fact is there's a new quarterback out there. And it's a young quarterback making his first start. Now, he played extensively against Jacksonville when Jones had to leave with the Achilles, but this is his first start. He's been practicing all week with the first team reps. Who does he feel most comfortable targeting?
That's a good point. Riley Leonard was a decent quarterback over at Duke. I do remember him from his Duke days. Then he transferred to Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
But I remember him more from his Duke days. And he has some tools. So I think this is a great opportunity. Outside looking in, of course, great opportunity to see, especially if you guys move on from the current regime, GM on down to the coaching staff. It's a good opportunity for him to put some tape out there for whoever's going to be next, or even for the current guys. And just say, hey, I deserve a shot to at least be, your backup quarterback moving forward.
Certainly.
And to be trusted. So I always wanted to ask you guys, just that trade for Sauce Gardner. What was your thoughts on that, Jake?
I was into it, honestly. Now
everything price that y'all gave up was paid.
It was a lot, but at the time the Colts were the number one team in the NFL. They weren't dealing with injuries to quarterback, and like it wasn't like everyone was hurt. So at the time, you're like, yeah, that's pretty steep, but this is a good team that just made a move for an elite corner, and they already had one in Charvarius Ward. So it looked like an all-in move, like a move to try and get them to the Super Bowl this year or next year. And then everything just fell off a cliff. And then now with revisionist history, it looks really, really expensive, which it is. Because with the collapse that they've had, you don't know if it's even this front office going to be making decisions. So now you look into potentially having to rebuild your team without 2 first-round picks in the next couple of years. So I didn't have a problem with it then. I was in favor of it because I knew what their intentions were. Like, who cares if you don't have first-round picks if you win a Super Bowl? Like, look at what the Rams do. Like, they sacrifice those draft picks for glory, and it has worked before. So that's kind of where I was at. And I'm not going to dog it now just because like that move really had little bearing on this collapse, other than Gardner has been hurt more often than not at this point. Right. But even if he was on the field, that wouldn't have been enough to save them from what's happened. So I'm still in favor of it. He's a young building block for that defense, no matter what scheme they go with moving forward, but especially if Lou Anarumo is still the defensive coordinator next year. So I'm still in favor of it. It's just incredibly unfortunate how it's all worked out.
Yeah, let's get into our game predictions on the other side. I want to hear, in any world, how can the Colts win this game, and can they play spoiler? This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with PrizePicks, it's always good to be right. With high pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and PrizePicks lets you stay in control. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections. No draft, no waiting. Just pick more or less and play your way. Getting started on PrizePicks was quick and easy, super simple. The app is easy to use and navigate. I love the flexibility with options like Flex Play, where you can still get paid even if one pick misses. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks is good to be right. Closing out this episode, this crossover show, Colts Texans, to go down Sunday. In any world, how can the Colts play spoiler, Jake? What's your game prediction?
Well, it's tough for Houston because they do have things to play for. They're in the playoffs, but like they want the division crown. I guess what the Colts can throw at them is Houston not really knowing what to expect from Riley Leonard. Now, Leonard is plenty mobile. Like, if anyone who watched him at Notre Dame, that's how his bread was buttered. Like, he's not like an elite athlete, but he will run the heck out of the ball. And I think the Colts will look to establish a bit of that. If they can break up the Texans' D just a little bit with Taylor and Leonard as runners, and then kind of use play action off of that to hit some big plays like Alec Pierce, maybe Josh Downs or Tyler Warren can get some yards after catch going, then that's certainly possible. On the defensive side of the ball, that's where I have even more questions defensively, and that's with a team that is starting a rookie 6th-round quarterback. Who's going to stop Nico Collins? Who's going to stop Higgins? Dalton Schultz. Like, I just don't know who is going to be able to stop the Houston offense right now. Latu does some really nice things. He's probably going to come up with at least a few pressures, maybe a sack. He's a sack and a half away from 10 on the year, so he'll be pretty motivated to be productive in this one, as always. The Colts' backup defensive tackles with DeForest Buckner gone have been pretty productive. Tommy Adebawore and Neville Gallimore. The linebackers are yikes in coverage. That could be a real advantage for Houston. The Colts really, really wanted to do everything possible to keep their linebackers from being in coverage by playing more dime defense and playing more man coverage on the corners and stuff. But the amount of injuries have just kind of relegated them to just trying to survive. And that's put the linebackers in bad positions quite a bit. I think Houston would just kind of have to have a bad day. I think the Colts pass rush would have to be really clicking. And then at some point, Houston just being like, let's get some of these backups in here. Let's stay fresh for the playoffs. I don't think just mano y mano, like man for man, that the Colts are going to just be able to beat this team. Not like this. The Houston's defense is really good. I feel like I was kind of raining on everyone's parade yesterday at the Colts facility. They announced Riley Leonard was the starter and kind of selling it as like a great opportunity, like a feel-good thing. And I was like, hey, guys, yeah, but this matchup, not great. Like throwing him in against Houston is pretty bad. They're the best defense in the league, and they're number one or top 5, top 10 in just about everything. So I do certainly think the Colts have a little ingredient there with Leonard and his mobility and willingness to push the ball down the field that could help. But I can't act like the Colts are a better team. Like anything could happen on any given Sunday, but by design, the Texans should win.
And I think you make a great point. If Houston starts to decide to pull guys, what does that look like for the Colts in terms of being able to make it a game if the top tier guys is not out there? Now, what I will say is Houston has some good depth up front. Not the best depth on the outside at corner. Not the best depth at safety. Decent depth at the linebacker position. We got your guy, former Colt, EJ Speed, who's played extremely well in his role this season. And I think he's a player that Houston should want to bring back. But if Houston's out there and they're playing a half of football with their starters, this game should get ugly early. And I'm not going to say could get early. It should. It really should. Houston's defense should be able to get off the field, force 3 and outs. They are, I think, the best team, the best defense in the NFL at the amount of 3 and outs on the year. Houston's offense should be able to just score 14 to 17 points in the first half. And after that, you put in your reserves. And your reserves for Houston looks like Davis Mills. Your reserve for Houston looks like, even if you want to pull Woody Marks, who's had a good rookie season, but he's been banged up a lot throughout the year, Nick Chubb and Jawar Jordan, who's ran the ball very well. Your reserves for Houston looks like a Jaden Higgins who can make some plays, a Jalen Noel who can make some plays with opportunities. I think it'd be important for Houston to get Cade Stover some opportunities and get him going a little bit more. So pulling Dalton Schultz and putting him out there. So Houston's reserves offensively, all of those guys have been a part of, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, that 8-game win streak. They all played major roles, including Davis Mills, who played some good football against Jacksonville to lead that comeback, and throughout the year until C.J. Stroud returned back. So I think this is a game where Houston should be able to drop 20 early in the game, and I mean between 17 to 20 points by the halftime, pull their guys, and the reserves are good enough to finish it out. And I'm going to take Houston in this game by 10.
Okay. Yeah, I can't come up with a specific score yet, but I mean, a 2-score deficit certainly sounds right. I'll give the Colts a little fight. I think if it was a quarterback we'd already seen out there, it would be easy for them to just kind of roll over a little bit. Not that they don't want to try hard, but we have seen them roll over in late year situations before. But I think having kind of a young, spry quarterback like Riley Leonard out there will give everybody enough energy and juice and like newness to want to compete really, really hard to the whistle. So a double score deficit is likely, but maybe we go like 17-28 Texans.
I think that's a good number.
And that's me kind of being kind to the Colts right now.
That's also me being kind to the Colts. Honestly, that's also me being kind to the Texans offense as well, because as great as this team is, everybody knows that the offense is what been kind of holding them back from being better.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've struggled at times. They got out to a quick 14 lead against the Chargers. We saw how that game ended offensively. They struggled against the Raiders. So Houston's offense can have issues. I think what plays into this, into Houston being able to score points is, number one, they've already played the Colts. Number two, like you mentioned, who's out there defensively. So for Houston, it should really be about not shooting yourself in the foot, because on the opposite side, it ain't going to be too many players that can stop their offense. That should be able to stop their offense. So we'll see. Those guys will be coached up well in Indy, of course. This is the NFL. Any given Sunday is a true thing. So we will see. But I am John Hickman of the Locked On Texans podcast. That is my man, Jake Arthur of the Locked On Colts. It's been a fun year to start the year for the Colts. It's been a better year to end the year for the Houston Texans. And so we'll get to this game on Sunday, get to the playoffs. You guys will get to the draft without a first-round pick. I'm just kind of throwing it in right now. I'm making it worse. But until next time, Texans and Colts fans, peace.